Welcome to the School of Health Radio. Oh, we're so excited. Today's our first episode. Welcome. This is the School of Health Radio brought to you by 3asoh.com, and we are the School of Health Radio. We're so excited to start this brand new podcast series dealing specifically with the subject of health. But what kind of things in health? All manner of things in health. We're going to be talking about physical health and mental health and spiritual health and everything related to health. This is a health-related podcast. And who am I? I am T. Christopher Smith. I am the director of the Three Angels School of Health, a missionary training school, a medical missionary training school. I am a 20-year missionary veteran. I have trained missionaries for the last 15 plus years, medical missionaries. I am a biological farmer. But what's a biological farmer? A biological farmer is someone who grows food that is fully mineralized, healthy, strong, luscious, delicious food. And more than anything, I'm a Christian. I love Jesus. And this podcast is for you, brothers and sisters. And we have decided in the midst of my corona episode, in the midst of this horrible epidemic that's happening, that we could do something to encourage people, to strengthen them, and to give them health. Because we believe that health is a choice that you can have. You can choose to be healthy. Yes, you might be sick, but I believe that there are things in this world that can help us to recover. And so we've started this podcast, the School of Health Radio. And so I want to begin because just dealing with some of the news. This very first podcast we're on, this is going to be March the 30th. 2020. And this very first podcast is right in the midst of, in the United States of America and in many places in the world, almost a shut-in where a stay-at-home order has been issued by many governors. And people have to stay at home. People are finding themselves struggling with their mental health. People are afraid, and it's making them more susceptible to getting illnesses, not coronavirus. As a matter of fact, I was reading that in the news, it was talking coronavirus map of the U.S. latest cases state by state. And when I scroll down and I look, I got my phone right here. And when I scroll down, I'm looking at the news, and I'm reading this from, it doesn't say what, The Guardian. I'm reading this from The Guardian, and there are 140,000, almost 141,000 confirmed cases in the United States. Worldwide this is. It says that there are 2,464 cases. There are 59,648 cases in New York State alone. 13,386 cases in New Jersey. In California, there are almost 6,000. There are almost 5,500 cases in Michigan, 4,900 cases in Massachusetts, almost 4,600 cases in Illinois. Washington has 4,400 cases. Florida, 4,200 cases. Louisiana, 3,500 cases. Pennsylvania, 3,400 cases. Texas, 27, almost 3,000 cases. And you go down. The state with the least amount of cases is Wyoming. And they've had no deaths. Wyoming, South Dakota, North Dakota, Alaska, Nebraska, West Virginia, Puerto Rico, Hawaii, Montana, New Hampshire, Delaware, Vermont. It says here, New Mexico, Maine, Idaho, and Rhode Island. All of these have less than 300 cases. And most of them have very few deaths. There are 12 deaths in Vermont, 6 deaths to date in Delaware, and everyone else, Puerto Rico has 3 deaths, and everyone else has either 2, 1, or 0. And so we're looking at this coronavirus thing, and they're estimating some very high numbers. But things could be far worse. Matter of fact, a few weeks ago, they were estimating that there could be many, many more deaths. But the stay-at-home order and this social distancing, as they call it, has really helped, I think. But what else can you do besides social distancing? Now, I have here in my possession something that is extremely valuable. What is this? This is an N95 grade respirator mask. And the reason why it's so valuable is because you'll see here that it seals all along the mouth area. And because it seals and you can close it and pinch it off at the nose, these are very valuable. I bought this as a demonstration about a month and a half, 2 months ago, because I'm a medical missionary and I train missionaries. And so I was at the store and I just said, you know what, let me get some of these just so I can show people how to use them. Coronavirus had been going on, but I said, you know what, I wasn't thinking that I would need it. But now they just had a special shipment of not just respirators, but gloves and other things that are needed for first responders. This is a very, very, very serious epidemic. This is a pandemic, as it's called. But should you and I live by fear? Will fear help us? Or will fear actually cause us to be in a worse case or more likely and more susceptible to get it? One of the things that we're going to be talking about in this podcast is not only the things that are going on in the world of health. We're going to be having interviews. We're going to be talking to people about various things. We're going to be interviewing doctors and scientists. We're going to be interviewing people on the street. We're going to take your questions. We're going to provide for a way for you to be able to reach out and to ask questions, and we will answer them for you as best we can. And if we don't have the answer, we'll go to those who do. And so this podcast is geared to encourage you and to strengthen you mentally, physically, and socially. So, what kind of things are we going to talk about? Well, yes, I already told you that I'm the director of a missionary training school called the 3 Angel School of Health. And we've been training missionaries for over 15 years. I'm a 20-year veteran of missionary work. I travel to different countries, and as a medical missionary, I am primarily a teacher. I teach those who will do because I have done. And in training missionaries, and one of the things that we focus on is on how to use, we believe in the work of doctors. We believe in the work of scientists. We believe in these things, but I'm a Christian, which means that I believe in the power of God. That doesn't negate science, but God is over. But here's why am I bringing this up? Because one of the things is, if you're going to be healthy, you have to be informed. And that's the goal of this podcast, to inform you regarding the things of health, to educate, to strengthen. You know, one of the things I really love is technology. You know, I've done a lot of research into artificial intelligence, a lot of research into the things that are going on in the tech industry regarding health. You know, and so, but I found that all these things and everything that is happening, nothing can help you as much as you can. The most important person in your health life is not your physician. It's not your pharmacist. It's not your spouse. The most important person regarding your health is you. You have more to do with your health than anyone else, because your habits of life, whether or not you drink water, whether or not you get rest, whether or not you exercise, whether or not you have peace in your heart and mind. These are the things that affect your health far more than any outside things. And so I want to encourage you that we together can improve health. And imagine what your life would be like if you weren't stressed about your health. Imagine what your life would be like if you were mentally as healthy as you are physically, or if you were spiritually as healthy as you are mentally and physically. What if you were whole? What if you had peace? What if you had joy? Even though the storm is going around you, and yes, there are serious things that you have to deal with, but what if you had health? You know, a lot of people, when they get older, their greatest fear is sickness. You know, I've dealt with people, people get older, and as you get older, you have various different issues that you deal with in your health. And a lot of that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about why it is that some people are healthier when they're older, and some people are not as healthy. Some people are more debilitated. It has a lot to do with your genetics, yes. And we'll talk about the DNA and about genetics and about epigenetics and all of these things. But what is really important is that it's not and I've heard one medical missionary say it's not the gun that was given you, the DNA or the bullets in the gun, but your lifestyle is what pulls the trigger. What choices you make. And we want to encourage you at School of Health Radio to make good choices. And so we're going to go on a health journey together, okay? So we're going to meet day by day, 5 days a week. And we're going to do the things that we can do to encourage you and to strengthen you in your health. See, the question is what are you going to do? Are you going to be ready for the next pandemic? This is not the first pandemic to hit the world. You remember SARS? You remember the epidemic? You had, AIDS in the 80s. You had SARS that came up. You had Ebola. Everybody was scared of Ebola. And Ebola is very scary. And now we have this epidemic or this pandemic of coronavirus and the disease COVID-19. But I want you to know there are things that you can do. And we're going to talk about some of those things. As a matter of fact, one of the things I want to talk about early on here is a remedy. Let me give you a remedy, a food remedy on how to boost your immune system. It's very, very simple. It just takes three little things that you probably already have in your house. You ready? All right, here we go. The first one is water. All right? If you live in America, you probably have water. All right? The second one are lemons. Okay? Lemons. And lastly, garlic. Garlic. All right. This recipe or this remedy is called 3-2-1. 3-2-1. 3 what? 3 cloves of garlic. You take 3 cloves of garlic, you peel them, and you put them in a little blender. Okay? You take them, you peel them, blend it up. Then you take 2 lemons. You cut them, and you get the juice from 2 lemons. 2 lemons, 3 cloves of garlic, juice from 2 lemons, and you take 1 cup of water. This is a bottle. This is 16.9 ounces, so about half of this, 8 ounces. And you take them and you blend them and you whiz them up until it's nice and creamy. And if you don't have a very good blender, then you blend them up and then maybe you strain it. All right? And then guess what you do to it? You drink it. And what is this remedy going to do? This remedy is going to boost your immune system. Now, I was talking to someone earlier. I was speaking to them, and they were texting me. They were in another state, and they were asking me, as a medical missionary and under my profession, and they said, as an expert, what do you say? What do you do? How do we help fight this? They were a dentist. And I gave them this recipe, 3-2-1. And they said, well, they asked, are there any contraindications for this? And I said, well, I don't know any contraindications against this food, because this is food. This is letting food be your medicine. And if you did this, and we're going to give some other remedies, but just taking this will boost your immune system. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to boost our immune system. We're trying to make our cells healthier. We're trying to give our bodies the ability to fight off the things that come in. Lemon is a wonderful food for healing. Wonderful. We'll talk more about that. And I'll explain to you, because when we come back after our break, I'll talk to you more about why it is that the food you choose to eat can determine whether or not you get sick. Now, I know that sounds like a strange thing, but we're told, oh, it doesn't matter what you eat. Just take a pill or take an herb or do something like this, and this will help you. Well, I really want you to know that your decisions on what you do determine your health for the most part. Now, there are outside forces. That's the truth. There are things you cannot do anything about. But the things that you can do, this is what's important. All right? Okay. So again, 3-2-1. 3 cloves of garlic, juice from 2 lemons, 1 cup of water, blend it, and drink it. Now, if you are allergic to any of those, don't do it. If the food doesn't agree with you, don't eat it. But I have found this to be a wonderful remedy for myself and my family as an immune booster to help prevent getting sick. All right. So what can we talk about next? The thing that I want to talk to you about next is that as you and I make this journey together, as we go down this road of health together, I'm going to encourage you. I'm going to give you promises and things that you can do. Sometimes I'm going to give you an assignment and see if maybe you're going to you can follow along. We're going to talk about the benefits of exercise. We're going to talk about the benefits of drinking water. We're going to talk about the benefits of avoiding things that are bad for you. But we're not going to beat you up. This is not a spank fest. This is not where you're going to get what we used to call in my family a whooping. Well, unless you need it. This is an encouragement. This is an uplifting. This is a looking forward. This is hope. Because we are not the school of crying and the school of whining, but we are the school of health. And health has a good attitude. All right? All right, so let's talk a little bit about what it means to be a healthy person. Where does health start? Health starts with the mind. As a matter of fact, I want to give you the scripture of the day before we start. This is taken from Proverbs 23 and verse 7. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Health is affected greatly by how you think. Well, what do you mean? Have you heard of a system called the limbic system in the body? It's in your brain. It's your limbic system. And the limbic system is the system that determines fight or flight. The limbic system is the system that determines what your body does under stress. And when you and I begin to stress, your body starts to dump cortisol and it starts to dump fat into your system. And when it does this, it's trying to save your life. But the first thing that happens is your immune system stops. Your digestion stops. So when you're stressed out, you can't heal. You can't recover. So you and I have to make a change in how we think. This is why education is so important. This is why we've established this podcast, because we want to affect the way you think about health. We want to affect your mind, your heart, your thoughts. And this is why this podcast has been established, that you might be the healthiest version of you that there can be. You want to join us in this? That's my encouragement to you, that you'll join with me and that together we'll walk down the road to health. All right? All right. Our first ad is going to be, we are being sponsored by 3asoh.com. That's 3asoh.com. 3asoh is a health institution. It's a health education platform. Our grand opening is coming very, very soon. 3asoh.com is your home for health education. There you will find courses on how to boost your immune system, stress and depression, water therapy, food therapy, massage therapy, herbal remedies, mind cures, and growing healing foods. This is 3asoh.com. Welcome back, brothers and sisters. Welcome back. One of the things that I have faced over the years as a medical missionary is to try to encourage people that they can be better than they ever have been before. To get them to think beyond their circumstances, beyond their health condition, beyond their relationship statuses, and to get them to think beyond and to look past all of these issues. I want you to think with me. This nation suffered the world suffered a horrible pandemic 102 years ago with the Spanish flu pandemic. It changed the world. Millions died. Millions of people were affected. And as a matter of fact, there was at that time the same thing, social distancing. I watched a video just recently of a man who went through the 1918 flu epidemic, the Spanish flu epidemic. And he said that people, it took years for them to come back together. Churches stopped meeting. People stopped gathering together. People did not go to areas where there would be other people because they were afraid. But slowly but surely, people came back around and they became accustomed and they got back to life. But guess what? The world recovered from the Spanish flu epidemic, from the Spanish flu pandemic. You know, other things have occurred in our world that have been traumatic things that have happened. World War I was horrible. Millions died. But guess what? The world recovered. World War II came around and millions died again. And guess what? The world recovered. The Korean War, Vietnam, all of these things people said would be the end of our nation, would be the end of the world. The Cold War, all of these things were horrible. You had AIDS come about in the late 70s and early 80s. You had the crashes of the 87 crash of the stock market. I think it was called Black Monday. But guess what? We recovered. You had the dot-com boom and bust, and you had a 9/11 happening, but guess what? We recovered. You remember how afraid people were? Depends on how old you were. Maybe you weren't alive during that time, but people were afraid. People went to church. People prayed together. People turned their heart back to God. People were seeking for answers. But guess what? Our world recovered. Global terrorism. The war on terror, but we recovered. Are you getting the theme here? These things have happened before. Pandemics have happened before, but people recovered. Yes, there were losses of life, and it was very, very sad. It's always sad when someone passes. But there was a recovery. People got their lives back. People got jobs back. People went back to work. There was pain in the short term, but there was a recovery. And no matter what's going on, we're going to recover. There's hope. Do you understand? No matter how afraid you are, people were afraid and they went and bought all this toilet paper, and then they got a lot of toilet paper and they realized, well, what am I going to do with all this toilet paper? Stores won't take it back now. They said, oh, it's been in your contaminated home. We can't take back your contaminated toilet paper that you spent $400 on. And so I just want you to know that there's hope, that we will come back from this. Life will come back. Jobs will come back. Strength will come back. Yes, there will be some who we're going to lose, but we're going to come back. Do you understand? You don't have to live in fear. You don't have to be without hope. You can have hope, because as we read in our scripture for the day, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So if you determine it, and we're not talking about a Pollyanna, just ignore the things. We believe in being serious. But assessing things seriously and being prepared and taking precautions, when you're prepared, you're not as afraid. If you had water in your house, if you had food set aside in case you were on a shutdown order, then you weren't afraid. If you had an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of your income, you weren't afraid. If you had your relationships in order with your grandma and your grandpa or your parents or those who are elderly, you know what our family did today? Today, our family did a Skype call for everybody in our family. Grandma was on the line, our aunts and uncles and cousins and family and friends. We were all on a Zoom call today, this afternoon. And our family had a wonderful time. We got to say hi to Grandma, and Grandma was there with my aunt. My aunt was there, and my aunt, she was there with my uncle, and they had Grandma, and Grandma doesn't know how to use Zoom, but my aunt and uncle who helped to take care of her, they got her there on Zoom, and so Grandma was there. Her great-grandson was there. My mother-in-law and my father-in-law were there. We got together, and because we couldn't reach out and touch each other physically, we reached out technologically and touched each other. We speak on the phone. We go to places to where if you can't go there physically, you reach out another way. And it's amazing when you reach out to help someone else, guess what? You yourself are helped. Today, my neighbor came over. And when he came over today, he just wanted to come by. He stayed the social distance away. He just wanted to say, how you doing? Do you need anything? And we just talked and we encouraged one another. And we just showed love one to another. Because as a man thinketh in his heart, or a woman, so is he. And this is the encouragement I want to give you. You can have better thoughts. Because if you take your mind away from yourself and think of others and do for others, you will forget your own troubles. And guess what? you'll find that peace will come in, hope will come in, joy will come in, and you will see that you're not worried about the end. If somebody in your family is sick, you do the things that are necessary. But you can be well. Amen? Amen. And so I want to encourage you from School of Health Radio that you can be well. This ad is brought to you. We want to share with you how you can contribute to School of Health Radio. And one of the best ways is you can become a contributing partner. You can join us. You can go to paypal.me/School of Health. And there you can become a contributor. You can also go to 3A School of Health @gmail.com, and you can put that in at PayPal. That's 3A School of Health @gmail.com, starting at just $5 a month. We're asking you to join with us and to partner with us in bringing health to the world. Did you know that you can bring health to the world with just a donation, a monthly donation of $5? This will support this health podcast, and it will help bring health to the world. Thank you. Because this is our first podcast, I wanted to share in this segment about why I became a health educator, why I became a medical missionary, why I gave up a life of business, a life of just working in an office, a life of just being a father and a husband and a friend and a neighbor. It started off in the 1990s. And my father, who was a military man, he retired from the military and he had his own business. We had a landscaping business, and our family was doing very well. I am the oldest of 7 children. And I had moved out, and the younger ones were still at home, and I was in my 20s. And at that time, my father called me and he said, son, I have something to tell you. And he told me that he had been diagnosed with cancer, prostate cancer. And when he was diagnosed with prostate cancer, one of the things he said to me was that the doctor said that they wanted to do exploratory surgery. That's what they did back in those days. They don't do exploratory surgery so much now because it causes cancer to grow. But they were going to do exploratory surgery. They were going to go in and look at his prostate, and if it had grown or spread, metastasized, then what he was going to do was what they were going to do was close him up, and that he would probably have about 2 years. Well, guess what? They went in, they looked at it. It had metastasized. It had spread to the surrounding tissues. And they closed him up and they said, you have 2 years. But because he was retired military, he had health care through that retirement. And so the doctor said, well, at the VA, well, let's practice. Let's try to see what we can do to help you. And I saw my father go through the throes of just regular medicine. They did the surgeries, they did the chemotherapy, they did the radiation, and I just saw the cancer grow. I remember seeing a scan of my father, and it just showed all the places where the cancer was, and it just seemed like everything that they did caused the cancer to grow. And I remember because at that time I was taking my father every week to his weekly appointments. We got to spend a lot of time together. And this was not my natural father. He was my adoptive father. And because he had chosen to love me, and he's the reason why my name is Smith. And this man was the best man I ever knew. And so when he died, it was devastating for me. And because of this experience, and I'm sure some of you have gone through things like this, because some people have gone through this same kind of thing. And I'm very sympathetic to people. When I see people dealing with health issues like this, someone in the family, a parent or a grandparent or a child, and I've dealt with all these things over the last 20 years as a medical missionary. I've seen people suffer. And so the thing that has happened for me, brothers and sisters, is that my heart was enlarged for others who have suffered like I suffered, like my family suffered at the premature death. My father died at the age of 55. And so because of this, this is what led to me ultimately giving my heart to Christ, because he gave me a Bible. And I'm not trying to preach at you. I'm just telling you my experience. He gave me a Bible, and I began to read it, and I found spiritual health and mental health and physical health from that forgotten book that my father had given me. And when my life was changed, I decided to be the change for other people as well. That I might help them, that they should never go through the things that I've gone through. And that if they are going through them, that they should not go through without having some kind of hope, some kind of encouragement. And so for the last 20 years, I've given myself to that purpose. And so the reason why we've established this podcast, why I have given myself to do this, is because I want to, if at all possible, lessen suffering. And I really believe with all my heart that we can have a change. Listen, I know that not just positive thinking, but hopeful thinking, having something to live for, because I know it's changed my life. Because I have lived to help others, I have avoided many of the other challenges that are normal to my family. And because I live to be a blessing to others, and because I'm mindful of this, it's changed my eating and my drinking and my dressing habits, which affect my life far more than what happened, in utero with my mother. And so I want to give you this. If you have suffered, or you know others that have suffered, encourage them to listen to this podcast. If you know other people who need hope, or who need joy, or who need a laugh, or who just need to maybe ask a question, encourage them to talk or to send in a note. And so you and I have a life to save. I'm not talking about just our salvation with Christ. Yes, that's true. Okay. But I'm talking about the life that we have here. We can have hope and health in this life. We can have joy and peace in this life. We can have strength and encouragement in this life. You can have in this life a slice of heaven. Yes, there are going to be challenges. Yes, there are going to be struggles, but you can have hope. And this is what the Three Angels School of Health, this is what School of Health Radio is for, is to give hope. And so as you and I give ourselves over to a different mind, different thoughts. And that's why we want to have this podcast to be released every morning at 6 a.m. Because we want you to start the day off healthy and well. We want you to start the day off encouraged. We want your drive to work or your day to be strengthened. And so, brothers and sisters, welcome to School of Health Radio. Our final ad of the day is School of Health Radio podcast. We want you to know where you can find these podcasts. The first place is anchor.fm/School of Health Radio. That's Anchor, ANCHOR.FM/School of Health Radio. We can also be found on Spotify, Facebook, YouTube, iTunes, or wherever you find your podcasts. Just search for School of Health Radio. My friends, we want to thank you again for joining us at School of Health Radio. And as we bring this episode to a close, you know, it's been said, it is better to have health than to have wealth. Do you know that there are many people who spend the first 40 years of their life using their health to gain wealth, and the last 40 years of their life using all of that wealth to try to get their health back? Let us have health by choice and not by chance. Let us be healthy. Let us be wise, because this is School of Health Radio. I want to thank you so much for joining us. I want to thank the producer. I want to thank those who have helped us in putting these things together. Welcome again to School of Health Radio.